20th in Ann Arbor. So it's going to be a great opportunity. There's still time if anyone wants to consider going this year. And next week I'll share some more resources with you guys. Here at Conscious, we have Heaven and Hell every Thursday. These are the courses that we offer at 7 p.m. We also have Planetary Transition that happens before our meeting today at 9:30 a.m. With David. One second. And we have the Spiritist Review that happens every second and fourth Wednesday at 6:30 p.m.
First and third, no? Isn't it first and third?
No, first and third is in Portuguese. Second and fourth is in English. Okay. Our opening reading for today from the book Happy Life. The lesson is 135th. While you have the resources, cultivate solidarity. You are a social being who needs to coexist with other people in order to fulfill the goals for which you were reborn. Solidarity is one of the most valuable tools for success. Be useful and kind. Spread goodness, and in return, you will never be lonely. Very good reminder for a time where so many people are lonely in this world of so much connectedness, at least in the online world, but solidarity, moving towards others, connecting with others is always a wonderful way to actually connect with people and and actually be with others. Again, there's a lot of loneliness in this world, right? So that is one of the paths that Juana is here recommending for us to be with one another. Okay, we will go ahead and do our initial prayer for today. Let's all take a moment to connect with gratitude. Gratitude to be here today, gratitude for arriving, or if you're hearing this message at another time, gratitude for connecting, to be able to connect with this talk. We ask God to bless us all, to inspire our friend Jussara, who is joining us this morning, but all of us, as this is meant to be a conversation. May we all be inspired. May we all be present, be connected with our mentors and benefactors so that this can be, as always, a productive and nourishing time for our souls. Bless all present, incarnate and discarnate. And once more, thank you for this day, for this opportunity, and so be it. All right, dear friends, with that, I am going to move Jussara to the big screen so you all can see her. Okay. All right, and I actually need my phone because I have some of the questions. So Jussara, good morning, welcome.
Hi, Suzana. I'm just seeing your chin down, okay? So
okay, let me see.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
There you go. So I'm looking at everybody here into the camera, and you are on my right side here, so everybody can see you. Okay. So today, continuing with our conscious conversations, we have the topic of mediumship. So many of you have participated in these conversations before. We have selected some questions that Jussara and I will try to answer the best that we can, but this is supposed to be a conversation. So if you at any time have a question that you would like to ask, please raise your hand. Then if you have a comment, you want to add anything, you're all welcome to do so, okay? But I thought we could start from the very, very beginning. Some of us know more than others about mediumship. Someone might be watching this at a later time who does not know anything about mediumship. So I think the first question that I put over here is, what is mediumship? And I think what is mediumship is easier to answer, but the second question is a little harder, which is, how does it work? Okay? So if I would ask you, if someone comes and finds out that you're a spiritist and, knows about mediumship, and say, hey, what is mediumship, right? And then you tell the person and you say, do you know how does it work? Would you know what to answer? What is the answer for that? So let's see if Jussara can help us out. So you want to get us started, Ju?
Okay, so we are going to be starting from the beginning.
Just 1 second. Forgive my lack of politeness. I don't know if everybody knows Jussara, but Jussara is currently the Vice President of the U.S. Spiritist Federation. She has been the president. She's involved with this work for a really long time. She's also the president of the the International Spiritist Council, and she's involved with the publication of books and just she speaks all over the world. So, and she's also the president of the Spiritist Group of New York. Did I get it all right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. But most of all, she's a friend and working together. Yes, Jenny?
Which one is her? It's so difficult to know. So many flowers there.
Did you hear that?
Which
He said,
one?
which one is you? Because too many flowers in the... Okay, all right.
Yeah, I thought they weren't the way to.
Go ahead, Ju.
Okay, so everything started last century when I was born. Okay, and all that to say that since I'm not young anymore, I've been studying and participating in mediumship groups for the past 40 years. But still, there are so many things that we don't know and we need to learn. So mediumship, how can we say what it is mediumship to a person that approaches us for the first time? We will say that it's a way that some people have of, some ability to be able to perceive life in the spirit realm, in the spiritual realm. And with that, they are able to communicate. According to Kardec, as we know, all of us are mediums to a certain degree, but it's this certain degree that makes a difference, because some of us will perceive that in a very natural way to the point of not understanding that they come actually from the spirits. And we have question 459 of the Spirits book that tells us that the spirits are interfering in our thoughts much more than we think. Right? So, and other people will have this ability. Why? That could be a question. Why some people have this ability, this more prominent faculty, so to say, and others not, since everyone is a medium? Then is a question of the program of your reincarnation, the needs that you will have in terms of your new reincarnation, the commitments you made. And for sure, if you have mediumship in an ostensible manner, it's because you are supposed to put that to a good use. And to put to a good use not necessarily means you sitting around in a circle, in a group, in a séance or a mediumship meeting, but really being the intermediary to bring good to humankind is starting with you. And the second question,
The second question was, how does that work? How do spirits communicate?
Oh, okay. Oh, it's the same thing that we would say. We will try to explain how does electricity works, right? Uh, we are the computer, right? And there is the source that is coming the message. Like for instance, now there is a source that is bringing me to you there at Conscious Living in Miami. But there is electricity in between that makes everything possible. So it's very hard otherwise to explain, because then we would have to be able to get into attunement of the spirits and the ability that as ourselves, as at least three bodies, physical body, is spirit and perispirit, how the perispirit is going to emancipate, and in this stage it's easier to receive the energies of another of a spirit that is already discarnate in this emancipated spirit as well. And somehow in this stage we can communicate and bring the message to the physical body. So I think,
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So
Yeah.
like mediumship for beginners, right, if you will. So each one of us has a spiritual body that we call perispirit. When you are in a state of trance, means that you were concentrated, you're focusing. This body, it's not locked into the physical body, so it does expand, right? We are connected to one another based on our vibrations, based on what we are thinking. We have frequencies of thoughts and feelings. So the connections usually happen based on affinity and attraction. And in that state of trance, of like, you again, it's kind of a focus state, the perispirit of the medium and the perispirit of the spirit itself, they connect. And I like what you said, because it's basically, so what is in the spirit's mind is downloaded to the medium, and so you receive that message, right, in your brain. So and somebody asked, and so I think we can go into that. So I might be focused, and then suddenly an entire story, an entire context of conversation is downloaded into my brain. And so that is one way in which it can happen. Or suddenly you can hear as if it's a voice, or an image can appear in front of you, and you know very well that this is not yours. Sometimes it downloads as an entire piece of story, or different ideas. So that's kind of in a nutshell, right? How that would happen. What do you think I did?
Yeah.
Okay?
I just would add that, just for us, since we are using this metaphor, to think about compatibility, because maybe, you're 110 and the spirit is 220, or vice versa. So there has to be compatibility. Otherwise, it makes it harder, because we could be thinking why all the spirits communicated with us or through us, through the mediums, or there is this preference of communicating with a certain medium or the other medium. So we will think roughly on these terms, how we somehow are capable of getting in tune with that spirit.
And then you said that we are all mediums, but we also talk about ostensive mediumship. So we all mediums in the sense that we are all, like you said, under the influence of the spirits. And a lot of times we have thoughts that we think are ours, but they have been suggested to us. So in that sense, we all capturing the messages from the spirits. But some of us, like Jussara said, we have ostensive mediumship. So the question is this a gift? And she talked about you know, the people who have certain missions, mission in the sense of work, not mission in the sense I'm a missionary, but certain tasks, they are given that possibility. But the question that I want to add is this something that can be developed?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are not born with the physical conditions necessary for you to become an ostensive medium, it's not going to work. So that's the reason why, crash courses that say become a medium in a weekend or something, they do not work. And so there may be other nuances that I'm thinking about here that some people may think that is mediumship when in fact is spiritual influence in the sense of obsession, or even we call pathological mediumship, but no. Having said that, if you are, let's say, physically prepared to be a medium, depending on how you are going to be developing or growing into your mediumship, other faculties may arise. So you may start as being a medium of a writing medium, a psychography, and all of a sudden you will start, being a talking medium as well, psychophony. Because you are doing a good work, and so they may use your possibilities to bring more of the varieties of the faculties to you. But otherwise, no. We may have some examples of people that started mediumship later in life, and but then it was in their program of life to start at this point.
I was going to give myself as an example, right? So for most of my life, I said that I have goosebump type of mediumship, where I would sit down to do a lecture, and those minutes prior to the lecture, I would feel like if someone was touching like very lightly on top of my head. Or sometimes when I was at home and I would say, oh my God, I would look at my bookshelf and I say, I need to find something for this particular topic. And I have a lot of books that I have never read, but I put them in there and I say, one day you're gonna serve me and one day I'll get to you. So I have those books. So a lot of times I'm guided to pick up a book that has exactly what I need. So that was the type of mediumship that I had. And I always said, I'm not a medium. No, I'm not a medium. Only goosebumps, right? Until the day that I started to work on a mediumship group. And I was there, maybe I'll help with passes, But then little by little, it started to develop the mediumship. But like Jussara said, I already had in my physical body, because you have to have in your physical body a predisposition for this type of mediumship. But yes, it can happen late in life. I think I was in my 30s, mid-30s, when we started the work here at the center as well. Any questions? Anyone? Any comments? Anyone wants to? Yes.
When a medium channel and spirits, I just think you guys mentioned that depends on what kind of medium are you that you attract, because of the same energy you attract. The channeling is attracted by you same energy. So we it's like we are comparable with that.
Yeah, compatible. It needs to be something that the spirits call compatibility, for the spirit to communicate through that particular medium. Yes. So can you hear, did you hear her comment?
No, I
No,
couldn't.
it's a little, she's sitting a little too far. So she kind of went back to what you said, that when there is a communication between the spirit and the medium, it needs to be some compatibility. between the two for the communication to occur.
Yes, once Divaldo explained that in a way that I thought was absolutely amazing, just for us to have a rough idea, because it's hard for us to explain exactly how it is. We mostly do not know about our sciences, and that are very touchable to us. Imagine trying to understand the science behind, or the mechanism behind all this mediumship. And he explained the following, because one of the questions may be why a certain person is going to be having, receiving messages from lower level spirits and other from high level spirits. Does it mean anything? You can only attune with low level spirits. And he said that normally what happens is the following. For us to be able to receive a message from a higher level spirit, which is definitely not exactly who we are, it's when we are in the mediumship meetings and we are all there sitting with the best of our intention. We are led to prayers, to meditation, the music that elevates ourselves. And so let's say we raise about 20 points in our actual points of spirits. And the spirit that is going to communicate with us, coming to us, he can do the same process. He can reduce like 20 points of his, the total difference of 40 or more in between us. And we find ourselves in the middle. And the same happens in terms of the lower level spirits, the ones that are suffering too much. This is the reason why sometimes the medium that is going to give communication from a suffering spirit, lower level spirits, from the day before, it starts feeling some
Discomfort, yeah.
Discomfort in terms of physical discomfort or even mental, emotional discomfort. So we go to the meeting basically not feeling that well, and in this sense you are able to reach to the level that is going to make it possible for the whole process to happen. And I thought this was great for us to kind of try to understand, and even to understand that being a medium doesn't mean that we are special. It means that we have a commitment, a very serious commitment. And if we had assumed this commitment, it was because we were in dire straits. We were really in need of assuming this commitment of doing something for the good of humankind.
We have two more questions here, Ju. So, Carlinha.
How do you differ what is from you than the spiritual realm? Like, if there's a lower level spirit or high spirit, or it's coming from you. How do you separate, for example, in a mediumship group, you're in a group of people and everybody is in different level of mediumship, how you can analyze and see when it's not coming from yourself, from your thoughts, from your imagination, and it is really from the spirit realm.
Right. So, so the question is, how can you identify what is from the spirit and what is from you, your own content, right? So that comes with practice. I'm gonna get started on this one. That comes with practice. There will always be your own content mixed to what is coming from the spirit. Always. Because our psychic, so for example, you might use words in the communication. They're very common in your vocabulary. When you filter your own colors, your own psychic, your own will be placed on that message. Okay, so there's always that. Now with practice, okay, like everything else, you become a better medium in the way that you learn not to interfere. You learn, for example, when you are hesitant, during the message you're thinking, and the thinking interferes in the process. As you practice, you learn to trust, you surrender, you let go of control. The more you let go of control, in this sense, it's not that you're gonna just act like crazy, but let go in the sense of like not trying to control the content per se, right? Then it comes with more fluidity, and you're gonna be interfering less in the process. But there always going to be a little bit of the content of the medium. At the end, if you have a very well-structured group, we know each other very well. That's why the groups need to be, one important thing is that we know each other well. So we can see, and people don't take it personally. If you practice mediumship alone, a lot of times you will not be able to see what others can see. Okay, it's a little harder in that sense. So the working group is very beneficial if you want to look to grow as a medium, because you can get feedback from others and say, hey, you know, and you yourself feel comfortable to say, I have, for example, in my practice many times said, you know, I felt like in the middle, I lost it. And I was trying to find myself, the thought, I lost it. So you have to be able to be comfortable with the group to say, it wasn't, I was looking for the words. I wasn't, you know, I lost the connection. The Wi-Fi dropped in the middle of the communication. And that's okay. That's okay. If you're not comfortable with the group, you're gonna make up something. You're gonna go ahead and you're gonna start saying things when they're not actually happening. Okay? And that's where a lot of mysticism happens, and that's a lot of fake stuff happens that compromises the integrity of the work. So having a solid group, a group of friends, a group that trusts one another and that knows one another, it's really the best way to work with those issues and learn and grow, knowing that they will always be present. Do you want to add anything?
I think this is the hardest thing we have. And I think every medium goes through that unless you are completely unconscious. But as we know, the majority of us are conscious mediums or semi-conscious mediums, and so this is the thing that comes to our mind. And you said it perfectly. It just comes with experience. But one thing that we could say as well is that this is one of the reasons why we are always advised to try to use mediumship in the right environment. When we are in a mediumship group, never to try to do that, you know, for fun to others or out of place, because when you are in a mediumship meeting with serious people, like Suzana said, with people that you are used to work every week, we know that the spirits are there. It's going to be very hard for you to bring something that only comes from your mind. Sometimes it feels like that because it's so clear, but at the same time, you have to ask yourself, if I was at home alone, would I have thought in this topic? Would I be capable to develop this topic as well as I'm developing now, and with the rapidity that I'm doing it now? And those are the key questions that you have to ask yourself, because when we are in a meeting like that, I mean, the message, like as Suzana said, we just download the message and we just go there and write it like everything is ready. And this is not how we ourselves normally function.
Yep. And then we have another question.
How about intuition?
How about intuition? Mm-hmm.
The spirits send you a message, or they talk to you, or do you feel something? How does it work?
Okay, did you hear this one? How about intuition? Do the spirits send you a message? Do you hear it? So she's asking how intuition works,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
She's on mute. She's muted. She's
muted.
Intuition is like a whispering of the spirits to you. I remember once a person asked in our group, why don't the spirits talk to us and guide us in the way to do that we have to do things? And I said, well, you're right, they are not talking to us, they are screaming at us, they are literally screaming from their world to us, to ours, to try to guide us in the right path to do. And they use different resources for that. You know, that can be a book that you are going to randomly open, or a friend that is going to call you and say a message, or, you know, so many different things. And not to mention them trying during your dreams or your waking stage to put that idea, that image for you. So this is how it works. It's not ostensive. The merit of the decision of the free will has to be ours. And we are going to be many times guided and advised, and we will say, there is something that is telling me that I should not go out today. But what do I know about that? Then reason comes. And reason comes and takes you out of track. So many times I remember, you know, thinking about it. Why did I have to think about, you know, something that I felt I shouldn't do? And then I did, because when I reasoned, I said, there is no reason why I shouldn't be doing that. And then, you know, so intuition is the presence voice of the spirits, and most of the time, what we call your guardian angel, that is a 24/7 babysitter next to you, right?
And I think sometimes you will be able to identify that you have been, you know, guided, and sometimes you will not. You will assume that that was your own thinking. But sometimes it's very obvious. Like, for example, I might be working on a project, on a lecture, whatever. Then it has happened to me where I am in a meeting at my work, 8:30 in the morning, listening to people talking about a case and blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly, in the middle of this meeting, when I'm totally focused on the meeting, an idea comes into my mind about the lecture, you know? And then I take the paper and I start like writing down, right? So for later. So I think in a case like this, a lot of times it could be there was whispered or yelled at me and I caught it in that moment. Sometimes I'm sitting there just kind of following what people were saying, so I'm not so busy myself mentally. So the windows, and but I wasn't thinking about that at all. So very likely it could be an intuition in that moment, right? Okay, I would like to change a little bit here. Let's talk about science. Ju, can you share with us what do we have today in terms of science and mediumship? Are there attempts to prove mediumship? Are there works being done scientifically in the area of mediumship that you're aware of?
Well, we have here in Arizona a lot of research. I don't remember her last name, that it's developed by Dr. Julie and others, and that we know of through, what was his name? Schwartz, Gary Schwartz.
Gary Schwartz. Mm-hmm.
And that works together with Gary Schwartz, and Gary Schwartz himself is one of the you know, the scientists that have been working with that, you know, doing incredible things, as he described it in some of his lectures at the Spiritist Medical Association, right? This in the U.S. that we know of, not just studying, because many of them studies the validity of prayer in our daily lives and praying for others, and all those things happen, but actually is studying the communication. The Psychical Research Society as well in the US is one that is very keen on studying. But the thing is that the scientific methodology, they require so much or so many same results that they still have been studying things from 100 years ago, one medium after the other, one scientist after the other, and they are still in the process of validating things. But we do have in Brazil nowadays, through NUPI and Dr. Alexander Moreira, many things being done in this field. And I think maybe sooner than we anticipate, we will already have some results. The thing is that comes to our minds sometimes, there are so many names that we have in this country, like Dr. Ian Stevenson. Dr. Ian Stevenson documented more than 200 cases, or 2,000, I don't even remember anymore, but it was so many cases that he documented on reincarnation. Then we had Dr. Brian Weiss, and then we had Evan Alexander talking about his near-death experience. I think until we have really an open mind in terms of the scientific field, and until they have an open mind to start seriously researching and taking into consideration the research of others, we are still going to be in the same place, because it's not for lack of research and documentation and proof that we are not there yet.
Yeah, so NUPI is Nucleus of Spiritist Research. It's in Portuguese, but I do think that they have a lot of material in English as well. So for anyone, and a lot. So for anyone, and when I do the openings and I put sometimes the presentations with, I bring some of the articles and things and that they published. So yes, one of the challenges, as Jussara said, is there is research. There is research here in the United States where they had the medium psychographing while monitoring their brains to see which areas of the brain are being activated during the mediumship process. Now, anything in science to be a fact, it needs to be reproduced, not once, but many, many times. So I think we are on the path of building more and more evidence. And I also think that the scientists who try to prove the contrary are also helping us to get to the gist of the matter. By trying to prove the non-existence, they keep getting closer and closer to the existence. Now, is it safe to contact the spirits, and should we evoke the spirits?
When we learn about the process of getting in touch with the spirits and how it is the process of dying and attributions that you may have in the spirit world, we understand how hard this can be and not necessarily safe. Because when the real person that you are evoking do not come, maybe you leave room for others come and assume the name of the person that you wanted to have. Again, the thing is, if you are doing that in the right place, like I say, I don't want to have a surgery at Times Square. Okay, since I'm in New York, I'm gonna use Times Square, right? I want to go to a hospital, and not only in a hospital, I don't want to be in the waiting room. I want to go to the OR, right? I want to go to the room where I know I will be safe, because they have everything that is going to prevent anything that is not supposed to happen. So it's the same with mediumship. So the same thing is what we are going to apply in terms of practicing mediumship. If you are in this kind of an environment, you can even try if you want, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen, because the spirits, they have their affairs. I always remember, and I always like to use this example for us to have an idea of how much spirits as a whole work and how hard it is for them to have time. There is this communication that happened, I know the day, okay? June 12, 1856, because it's the Spirit of Truth communicating with Kardec through a medium. And we assume that the Spirit of Truth is Jesus. And Jesus tells Kardec that once a month, for 15 minutes, he would be
Available.
to answer, to be in contact with Kardec. But come on, we are talking about the third revelation here, right? The promised consoler, Allan Kardec, Spiritism, and Jesus only had 15 minutes a month. Let's say something to us. Well, to me, it says two things. One of the things is that, like, 15 minutes of conversation with Jesus requires 10 years for you to digest if you are a normal person, at least, right? If not 2,000 years, like we ourselves here, right? So 15 minutes with Jesus, there is a lot that can be learned. But at the same time, it shows that how occupied the spirits are, especially the governor of our planet. So I, for one, never try to evoke anyone, and I prefer the communications to happen as they have to happen, even because, you know, the question that was asked before, is it the byproduct of my imagination or something? If I'm not evoking, I don't have any reason why I have to get there. So if it just comes as spontaneously, I think it gives more room for us to believe the communication and be safe that it happened according to what we need and the spirits need.
Yes, with that being said, nothing is prohibited in Spiritism. I think we have guidelines, we have knowledge that help us to make our own decisions, right? So we understand, for instance, that the spirits are just not there waiting for us to call. They're not available at all times. We also know that there's all kinds of spirits. I want to bring a couple situations, though, day-to-day situations, to help us to think these issues. Like, for example, one time I have a friend whose father committed suicide many years ago, okay? Like, we're talking 30 years ago or more. And she's not a spiritist, and we were trying to help her, and she was going through a very difficult phase. And I asked a medium, a very well-educated medium, if we could get some message about the state of the father, okay? I have done many requests of this nature in the past and got answers for all of them. For this particular person, we got nothing. Why? Because maybe it wasn't for my friend at this moment to be exposed to the information. Maybe the situation of the father remains one that is better if she doesn't know about it. Yeah. So there are reasons sometimes, there are beyond our understanding that would not favor us, right? Now, another situation, right, that happened here. We had one participant in our meeting who was having a very difficult time. That day was very difficult. He was in a period of trials. He spent the day prior to our meeting thinking very strongly about Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, with whom this person has a lot of connections and a lot of affinity, right? So the day of the mediumship happens, and through me a message comes in name of Bezerra de Menezes for that person. Now, I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about what that person is going on, much less that the person had spent the entire day thinking and evoking, because to think is to evoke. And so the spirit came and provided a message that day in response to an evocation, right? But it's not that he was like, I want to talk to, right? But he was in his feelings and in his connected to that spirit. So nothing is really prohibited, but what is the intention, right? What is the work being done for? And having the knowledge of how the spirit world works. There's all kinds of spirits. The spirits are not there available to us at any given time, right? Yes, the same way that we do pranks here, spirits also do pranks, okay? Because they are just us tomorrow, right? So the same way that we can be very malicious, so can be the spirits. So when practicing mediumship in any way, shape, or form, we have to be aware of the rules and the laws behind the phenomena and behind the spiritual world and the connections and the communication, so that it can be done in a safe way. When we are praying, a lot of times we are connecting, right? So we are calling, we are evoking. And a lot of times the spirits will, they will always respond to our evocation. And you may feel emotional in response to their presence. You may go to sleep and have an intuition that can be a response as well. So again, if you're going to engage in that, know what you're doing, know what you're dealing with. And again, it's always safer when we are doing groups so that we can help each other, okay? Not that it cannot be done individually, that's not what I'm saying, but given the fact that we ourselves have a very, very unstable psychic, okay? We barely handle our own thoughts on a given day, right? Just be careful, because we are very ego-centered. We are we have very poor judgment about our own perception of realities a lot of times. And so if you're gonna add other realities to your practice of mediumship, just be careful and be aware and study. And again, if you can, seek for a place where that can be done safely. Now, we are in the United States. And there's a medium on Instagram, and his name is Bashar. Bashar Channeling.
Yeah.
Have you seen this guy?
Yeah.
Joe? I recommend. The guy is fantastic. Fantastic. And he channels on Instagram. Okay? And he channels on Instagram, and his messages are so much in line with spiritism.
Yeah.
So much in line with
Yeah,
spiritism.
they are.
And he speaks, I mean, it's really, now, he has a business, he has his workshops and things like that, but what he's doing on Instagram, it's available to everyone. Anyone can watch. And his channel is super rich. So why am I bringing him? Because I want to bring up the diversity of mediumship in America. And we have to acknowledge that. And I'm going to share my personal opinion, and then I think we can make a link of what is the difference.
I'm sorry, but he channeled in outer space spirit. It's supposed to be from another planet. It's an ET. That's why what he said.
Yeah, it's out of space. Every spirit is out of this space, of this dimension, the incarnate dimension, right? So that's where it gets complex. But the complexity is rich. So, you know, it's like, okay, we might be using different terms, but talking about the same thing. Okay, it does not remove the validity of the work. If he doesn't have the terminology of Kardec, he might think that these are out of space.
Yeah.
Well, they're out of this space here, this physical realm, right? So, but at the end, it's the spirits. I mean, they're just spirits, right? So, we live in a very diverse world with a very diverse level of consciousness and diverse needs. And there are many different ways in which God works, because the message needs to be spread out, needs to be out there, right? So in that way, he becomes a tool, an instrument, like many other people, okay? And so does it have value? It does. Now, how do you handle that? You listen to it. And because you're spiritist, and because you have knowledge, and because you're studying, and because you have understanding, you can always filter, because that's what we're supposed to be doing, even with the messages that we receive, right? Divaldo Franco, after, I don't know how many messages he had psychographed, Divaldo Franco, Joana Jangeli said, now throw everything away. Because that was only an exercise, not good. Now let's start seriously, right? So we should be looking at every single message that we receive and not think that we are doing a great job, right? So same thing with anything that we see related to mediumship, whether it's in the spiritist movement or not. Personally, I think that this is important, and it has a place and has good things, and we can appreciate that, but also be critical and know what, matches or does not match our own belief system. So with that, the next question will be, and you can comment on what I said, Ju, but I want to make a link to the next thing, which is what makes mediumship unique in the spiritist practice?
I think the understanding that we have a purpose here, and the purpose is for us to grow and to spiritually evolve and to help in the spiritual evolvement of others. So in this sense, in the Spiritism, we learned quite well that the messages will serve to enlighten us, to guide us, whether they are from the highly evolved spirits that of course will come with instructions, with statements that we have to take to heart, or if it comes from a suffering spirit telling about their condition and how hard it was for them to come to the reality that life goes on, and how they would have behaved themselves if they knew differently. So I think the main point in Spiritism is that we do accept all the spirits, which is not communication, which is not something that we will see in other spiritualist communities, where they only think that they communicate with archangels, angels, and highly evolved spirits. Here, our main goal is actually to address the needy ones, because the needy ones were us before, and it can be again if we don't hear them telling us, listen, wake up. I know that you have the veil of forgetfulness in this lifetime, but yes, life after death is something. And in this sense, also because we understand that this is not a gift that we can use as we please for trivial things. Also, it depends on the efforts. We are just the messengers. So that's why we also do not charge for our services, because we understand that we are just a messenger. And we are being rewarded, in case anyone would like to know, because being the messenger, we are the first recipient of knowing exactly what is going on in the afterlife and how you can use that to your own particular personal evolvement.
Yeah, absolutely. So just complementing and summarizing. So mediumship in spiritism is a tool for service, of others, but also is a tool for our own redemption, right? Is a means to do good, to help others. And a lot of times when we are addressing those spirits who are suffering, we are talking to them about the very same things that we need to hear ourselves, because we are telling them and talking to them about the need to trust God, for example, about the need for forgiveness. And the reality is that we are not that different than them. In fact, I think we are very similar. We may not be in a very acute level of distress in some of the very distressing situations, but the feelings and the mistakes and the difficulties that they share are our own feelings, difficulties, and mistakes. So as the work is as much for us as it is for them. And so we understand that this is something that was lended to us, this ability, and we didn't have to take a course, for example, invest. It came for free, and we practice it as Jesus did, freely, because he is the reference, and the reference that we follow, and we do as he did. Now, we have like 1 minute, and I think one of the things that I always like to think when we have any talks or any conversations is, what does that mean in our day-to-day lives, right? Because many people say, well, but I don't have access to a mediumship group. Maybe they are in the United States somewhere where there's not even a spiritist center. Then what? If I am a medium and I don't have access to spiritism, what happens to me? Must I be in a mediumship group? Because a lot of people think that that is the case. A lot of people truly believe that they are going to get dysregulated and if they are not in a mediumship group. Now, mediumship is a day-to-day activity. We all mediums, and we all can attune to our capability. So, one example, you are talking to someone and you are having thoughts and feelings, and you pay attention to what you're thinking. And in that moment that you feel you're going to derail, right? And you're opening the windows of your mind for connections that wouldn't be beneficial, you were able to immediately shift and say, that's not where I want to go. And you position your mind to connect with your guardian angel. And you attune to that thought, and you hear your own feelings. You are practicing mediumship because your guardian angel is right there, and you are learning to listen. A friend comes to you with a very difficult situation and asking for guidance. If you are attuned to your mediumship, to the fact that you are always under the influence, you can say in a fraction of a second, I need some guidance. And believe me, you will be guided. So mediumship, you don't need a mediumship meeting to practice mediumship. The mediumship of the future is going to be a day-to-day mediumship. It is your mental disposition. It is your understanding. It becomes a daily practice. It is to be practiced at all times. And you will feel the presences, you will have intuitions, you will have visions, and that needs to be part of our day-to-day lives. how do you see the mediumship of the future or on a day-to-day practice?
I see that as being the mediumship of the present. I think, wherever you are placed in your place of work, or if you're engaged in altruistic works, charity work, when you are really available to others, and like you said, we have to do that on our day-to-day basis, and like, think about getting into your place of work and immediately being the key element to change the whole atmosphere of the world, the place of work, because you go there with that disposition of, protect everyone here today, make everyone be at their best. And if you're dealing with patients, or if you're dealing with people, if you are in the crazy markets that exist out there, you just send out your energy, always asking for the good spirits to protect you and to shield you also from, getting bad energy back. And so this is a way of doing and practicing mediumship. You're going to be the vessel of the good spirits. We see in the Andrea Lewis's stories where sometimes they come to Earth, and they, there is so many bad vibe around, and they see a house, a place. Oh, there is a flickering focus of light there. Let's go there. So be yourself this, little flickering focus of light, whatever you are. And this is how mediumship is best applied in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, wonderful. I something came to mind. I took my computer to Best Buy a couple weeks ago, and the guy said, you need to bring the computer here every 6 months, because we need to, that's the best practice. You bring every 6 months, we run, we clean everything, we keep it running, I have the service. So your computer in with mediumship is the same. So we have to, it is the practice of cleansing our own minds, right? Of like, the more we study, the more we feed our brain with altruistic and good information, the more our lifestyle seeks to be an altruistic one. We are setting ourselves, we are setting our psychic for the good. We are preparing ourselves. So we have this dichotomy. I'm gonna do my spiritual work when I go to the center. What do you mean? When you're home, you're not doing your spiritual work? When you're at work, you're not doing your spiritual work? The spiritual work is not something you do at the center. Spiritual work is your minute-to-minute practice. So is mediumship, is your minute-to-minute practice. Every time you get rid of the viruses and you feed your mind with good things, and you live with this paradigm that we are in constant connection with the spiritual world, you are preparing yourself to be a good medium, where it's needed the most, everywhere. Ju, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did.
I did. I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for taking your time on a Sunday to join us, okay? I'm gonna disconnect you now. Thank you. Say bye, Jussara.
Bye.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Ju. Okay. All right. I thought that was a lovely conversation. So let's go to our second part now.
Clarifying